Hello, good evening, and welcome to Spectrum Debate number 32. Whether you're watching on YouTube, Google Plus, or elsewhere, you are, as ever, very welcome to the show. Thank you for joining us, and of course, please do join in. Tonight, we have a fantastic panel who are going to be discussing a huge range of topics, and we're going to meet all of them in just a moment. But of course, we do want you to join in with our show. If you can, please do tweet using the hashtag SD32, which hopefully is up there on your screen, or I'm waggling my finger in completely the wrong direction, and I'll do my best to read out as many of your comments, questions, challenges and tweets as I can. Without further ado, we might as well go in and meet our guests, and then start with the debate. We'll go from right to left on my screen. It's the returning guest from the Northeast. It's Mr. Liam Bones. Good evening, Liam. Nice to have you back.
Good evening, Gareth. How are you?
Fine, thank you very much indeed. Now, I know we're missing that wonderful backdrop of yours of Westminster tonight, but we do seem to have some sort of poem on the wall, so at some point in the night we may need you to read that to us, because I feel like I can only get half the story at the moment.
Oh, it's just the story with the Conservatives in the North East.
Fair enough. Now, what's your topic for tonight?
My topic tonight is the European referendum, and more specifically, renegotiation.
Lovely, thank you very much indeed. Our next guest, another returnee back by popular demand, is Lily Summers. Good evening, Lily.
Good evening, Gareth.
Home from university now, I think, aren't you?
Yeah, summer break. Fantastic.
Ah, a very, very long summer break. When does it start back? Is it sort of late September?
Well, I'm going back on September the 16th. So
Okay. So, nice and long, but not too far away. It's what we like to hear. What's your topic tonight?
my topic will be on HS2, and specifically...
I think that might be specifically the quality of the broadband connection in the West Midlands, because it appears to have broken at that point. But HS2, the Northern Powerhouse, and so on is what Lily's going to be talking to us about, if we can get her back, which I hope we can. Our next guest is Joe Pattinson, who is coming to us tonight. Now, are you coming to us tonight, Joe, from York, or from Brussels, or from Germany, or from Chester? Which of the many places in which you reside are you broadcasting from?
I'm back in Brighton, York tonight.
You're in York.
Going to discuss the German-Greece relations after the bailout and why it's not really a good year for Merkel.
Okay.
But it is, surprisingly.
Marvellous. Judging by the lack of colour in your image, I'm assuming that colour computing hasn't reached Yorkshire yet.
No, it's just a one.
Is that what's going on? Oh, we're going to have that disproved in a minute by the Jameses. However, fair enough. Thank you for coming on, Joe. Another returning here. Good evening, it's James Arrowsmith, who I might be referring to tonight as Mr. Arrowsmith, as you will see for perfectly good reasons in a moment. I see that you're challenging me on size of headset tonight.
Yeah, I couldn't let you. You know, someone has to eventually.
That's fair enough.
Yeah.
I'm glad somebody has. Now, you're coming to us from Leeds, I think.
Yorkshire.
Yeah.
And you are proving that actually there is colour in some parts of Yorkshire.
Yeah, I mean, it's I'm using up the annual colour ration we have up north here, so. Yeah.
Fair enough. Well,
all for you guys.
Thank you very much indeed. We're very grateful. It's nice to know that there is that nice, generous spirit in Yorkshire, contrary to those dreadful rumours that we sometimes hear. Also tonight, of course, James, each of our panellists represents or has some sort of political leaning. James is Liberal Democrat, but sadly, we're not going to be discussing Tim Farron tonight, let alone frogs and fish. So that's going to be quite a safe one. Thank you for joining us, James. And tonight also, our final, last but by no means least, he's a new guest to our show. It is James Higgins, who again I might be referring to as Mr. Higgins. Good evening, James. How are you?
I'm all right, you?
It's very nice to see you here. Thank you very much for coming on. Now, you're coming to us tonight from which part of the country?
Sheffield.
Sheffield. So we got Yorkshire and Yorkshire going on here. It's a bit of a Yorkshire takeover. And in fact, Lily is the most southern of everyone here tonight, should she turn up again. So as she is coming from the West Midlands. James, what's your topic going to be tonight?
The bedroom tax.
Lovely, thank you very much indeed. Of course, we had the selection of the using our usual laser selection process, and unfortunately for James, he lost, or won, depending on your point of view. And he will be going first and presenting his topic first to you all for your delight and delectation. So you know what the topics are. You know what to prepare for in our discussion as we go forward. We're going to begin with what some call the bedroom tax, what the government says is a spare room subsidy, and we'll go to James in just a moment. In the meantime, just to introduce yourself, my name is Gareth. I'm a Conservative, but I'll do my best to be impartial and play devil's advocate tonight and make sure every issue gets a good hearing. Please do tweet us. Do get involved. People are doing so already. People asking, why are we waiting? They're making nice comments about our guests. This is what we enjoy. So here we go. Our first topic tonight. It is from Mr. Higgins. It is the bedroom tax, and over to you.
All right. Basically, I was watching the How to Get a Council House on Channel 4 the other week. And it was an episode on overcrowding. And essentially there was a family of 4 living in one bedroom, and it was just ridiculous how many people in one room. And yet you see people opposing the bedroom tax, saying it's unfair. Isn't it just as equally unfair to have so many people in one room when you have so many people, when you have few people with so many rooms? It's just unfair to have them have one with so many and one with so few.
Thank you very much indeed. And it seems already that the angle you've come from on the topic here has confused or taken by surprise some of our commentators at home. Some of whom are reminding us it's not a tax, please stop calling it so. And Salman Anwar reminding us, do you mean the spare room subsidy? Leon French, call it the bedroom tax and I'll kick off. He's already angry because of comments that someone has made about Yorkshire tonight, but I don't know who. Sammy apparently is disappointed on how bland my jumper is tonight. I'm so sorry about that, Sammy. It has actually got a bit of something on it. This hoodie has also come back by popular demand, but unfortunately, because of the computer I'm using, you can't really see it. I do apologise. So, James's point here is that to use the vernacular bedroom tax or spare room subsidy actually is there to try and stop people like a family of 4 living overcrowded accommodation all trapped into a single bedroom. Lily, I know this has been a big issue for the Labour Party, and that was the whole purpose of it from the government's point of view, wasn't it? To end overcrowding. Surely this is a good policy.
First of all, my laptop is completely useless, so if I go off again, it's because my laptop is useless, so apologies there. First of all, if I was the government, personally, I would do a U-turn on this straight away. I mean, they've done it with the, I can't remember what specifically it's called, the non-dom, that's it. If I was the government, I'd just do a U-turn on this. It's a horrible policy. The Labour Party didn't win the general election, not because, you know, scrapping the bedroom tax was unpopular, but simply because we didn't provide any policies for small businesses and for the middle class. But
Lily's computer only wants to allow her to give an opening, and it doesn't want to let her give her main point, which I'm sure will be very good. Mr. Arrowsmith, let me come to you, because the Liberal Democrats, many of whom I think, including the new leader, were very much opposed to this policy. If it's helping resolve overcrowding, surely it's a good thing.
Well, yes, but I think it's a balancing act in the sense that if you do happen to, you know, I've certainly heard, I can't confirm this, but I've heard examples of people who've been told, you know, oh, the bedroom, you know, the spare room subsidy, you're going to lose money, and and they say, well, it's a dining room, and it's how you define what a bedroom is as well. You know, what are your circumstances socially? I feel like I'm not entirely convinced as a tax. I mean, I'd have to ask Joe and Liam and yourself, Gareth. Is it popular amongst Tories at all, this tax? Well, the subsidy, if we may say so.
Well, let's go to Liam and see what he says.
Well, I firstly would say that it's not actually a tax, as Gareth pointed out, and it being referred to one is ridiculous. It is essentially making sure that people don't have too many rooms in the house, and the concerns which have been raised are that it doesn't include specific circumstances, but it includes things like carers, disabled people. It makes allowances for that. It just tries to cut down on the amount of people who have spare rooms in council houses so we have more social housing, which I don't see as a bad thing.
Joe, do you have any more comments on this?
Well, it's not a tax, let's be honest, come on. But also it raises the concerns for housing in general. Look at the numbers of houses, and it's better quality of housing to build. Look at the Help to Buy scheme. That's fantastic, helping first-time buyers. It basically raises concerns mainly for me that the houses are needed to be built, and throughout the next generation and the generation after that as well.
Thank you very much. A few of the points that some of you have raised online so far. So Joshua Dixon at Josh Dixon Tweets says, I hope you all can point me towards all those empty homes we can just move people into if they need to downsize. Joe Durampel Hornby, who was on last week, at Joe_DH. One problem, and there are many, with the bedroom tax is that there aren't enough single-room council houses. Thus the poor are put into poverty. Salman Anwar at Amazing Anwar, exactly, it may not be implemented in the best way, but the spare room subsidy is fair. Sammy at Buxty Y, I always have to say the extra Y. The problem with finding out about subsidy on TV is that the media paints everything wrongly. Leon French, at Leon_French01, the cut of the, quote, spare room subsidy was implemented very sloppily. It's hurt people who can't help where they live. A Confused Ninja at a Confused Ninja, hello Ian. Couldn't we provide incentives for people to swap places, not punishments when one family is overcrowded? Help to move. Leon French is appalled that he's agreeing with the Lib Dem. Salman Anwar at Amazing Anwar, there should be wiggle room if there are not enough houses, but sure, people shouldn't just keep rooms when others need it. Chris G at Chris G0000, many families not on welfare have the luxury of a spare room and may have to have 1 or 2 people in a bedroom. Don't have the luxury of a spare room, sorry, and may have to have 1 or 2 people in a bedroom. Why should they lose out? Matthew Thomas at MRT95_, if there were more 1 or 2 bedroom houses, this issue would be non-existent. It's right in principle. Jack Hughes has tweeted a particularly interesting GIF, which I have now retweeted. I think it would be unfair of me to try and recreate it, so do go and look. Joe Pollock at J Pollock 1996, the spare room subsidy is a common sense policy, especially with our population rocketing. Josh Aaron R, isn't this just the hearth tax, window tax of this generation, i.e. bonkers? Dylan Morris, where do these people move, all that social housing that doesn't exist? And Joe Durampel Hornby, disabled people needing room for carers, family losing bedrooms of servicemen away on duty, even many Tories hate the policy. I know one reason that's been given by, I'm going to defend it briefly and then I'm going to come to other people, it isn't about people moving to new homes, because of course this doesn't reduce the supply of homes. A lot of it is about people swapping homes. So you have an overcrowded family swapping with someone who has a spare room. That's part of the point. But the issue that Salman raised, and I know others here have raised, is that it hasn't always worked very well. What would you say, though, Mr. Higgins? It does feel very Victorian always doing that. But Mr. Higgins, what would you say, though, to the person who has lived in that same house for 20 or 30 years? Their family has grown up in it. All of their life has been there. Their children have moved away, and now suddenly they're having housing benefit taken off them because they've got a room that isn't occupied.
There's always ability to have someone join in that house, like. I saw something on Shelter where you could have a lodger or something to join in that room, and then you'll avoid the bedroom tax, or well, not the subsidy altogether. Also, it's the debate between what do you value more, your house or your money. It's like you've got a roof over your head where all your memories are, but what's more important, that roof or your money and your and I'm not explaining myself very well.
What's more important, is it the fact that you're going to have people crowded into one house for the sake of someone keeping their memories?
Memories, the house isn't going to destroy those memories, so what difference does it make? You're still going to remember all those things. So why do you need the house?
Yeah, it just sounded as though you were trying to condone people not moving house because they have memories.
Sorry.
Sorry.
I mean, it's important. Let me give you a few. I'm going to ask you, Liam, if you can answer a couple of these points that people have made on Twitter about this issue, if that's okay. John Dunsmuir at Admiral_Dunners. Explain to me again why the bedroom tax is a good idea, but the mansion tax was a bad idea. How about that one? I mean, that's a fair point, isn't it?
Because bedroom tax is social housing. So if you have your own house, if you own your own home, then it doesn't apply to you. You can have as many bedrooms as you want. But if you're relying on the state for your housing, you should not have extra bedrooms when other people need them.
No, but the point he's making really is, why is it that it's okay to do that to people at one end of the spectrum, whereas, on the other hand, the Conservative government has refused to implement a tax on those who live in very large, very expensive houses?
Because the people who are living in very large, very expensive houses have paid for those themselves. They're not relying on the state to fund that, whereas people in council housing do have that, so we need to have something like a bedroom tax.
Okay, a couple more points people have made here. Harry, at Harry_Chitty. The, quote, bedroom tax was trialled by Labour. Never forget. That's an issue echoed by Leon French. It had its roots in Labour's Welfare Act in 2007. Joe Dalrymple Hornby, however, points out the bedroom tax plus the benefits cap equals the social cleansing of London. Tens of thousands of often working families have been forced out of their communities. Danny Richardson, at Danny John RI, make allowances for the disabled. Is that why it's been challenged in the Supreme Court by disabled tenants? Oopsie, and where are we? There was something else on here. Chris G, the bedroom tax, 0 hours contracts and non-DOMs, those were Labour's dividing lines that were going to guarantee them 35% of the vote, but of course it didn't. And Salman Anwar says the mansion tax is on private property. And Councillor Charles Fifield here, who I know has written something about this, and he's sent us a link to an article about UK housing and planning and extensions and so on, and I've retweeted that. Dylan Morris says it's a good idea because it only affects the poor, and he says that basically that's what you've just said, Liam. Is that a fair criticism?
Well, no, because if you have the money to go out and you've earned that money, you have the right to buy a house as big as you want, to be honest. But if you are relying on the state to provide your housing, why should you have a house which is bigger than the house you need? I mean, fair enough if you're going to go out and buy a 3 or 4 bedroom house and you don't need that, but you're buying that with your own money. But if you're relying on the state for housing, they should decide how big the house is that you need and which one they give to you.
Well, can I come in here? Because
Please do.
the role of the state is to minimise the dependence on it, but also to make sure the vulnerable are supplied and looked after, really, because they are the weakest and the vulnerable in society. But also, it's the state's role to not hinder that independence of others who are paid with their own money, with their own initiative to buy their house. You know, it's very well to have the bedroom tax, as said by some people.
Okay, thank you. I'll come to Mr. Arrowsmith in a moment. Before I ask Mr. Higgins to close this topic, if Lily doesn't come back in the meantime, a few points that you might want to answer or build on, either of you. Where are we? Chris G says the mansion tax is a tax. The bedroom tax is a small reduction in benefits for a limited number of people who live in social housing that they don't need. Salman Anwar, completely agree with Liam Bones. You can't compare social housing to private housing. Joe Dalrymple Hornby, it should at least be amended to ensure that people can't be kicked out of their local area. It will be less embarrassing than a Tory U-turn. Chris, at all riff no raff, nobody is being forced to move, but understand their spare bedrooms are no longer being funded by the state. Matthew Thomas, social cleansing of London started with Labour's immigration tidal wave, driving up house prices. Supply cannot keep up with demand. So, Mr. Arrowsmith, any points on that before I ask James to close and Lily to comment and then James to close?
I haven't really got a great deal to say in it, but to be honest, no, we can move on.
Fair enough. Lily, before your computer runs away from you again, bedroom tax.
This is the last time I'm going to try this. If it shuts down again, I'm just not even going to bother.
Fair enough.
First thing I'll say, actually, I do agree that it's not a tax. We shouldn't label it the bedroom tax, but it's not a subsidy either. So, you know, making a disingenuous claim to another disingenuous claim isn't the right answer. As I said, the Tories should do a U-turn on it, like they did with the non-doms, because it's not popular character. It doesn't work. I mean, pushing people out of 3 to 4 bedroom homes because they've got an extra bedroom doesn't make any sense because there's not enough 1 bedroom homes. You know, if there was an abundance of 1 bedroom homes, it would actually work. Okay. Plus, it doesn't have any exemptions to disabled people. Councils, for example, in North Wales, having to spend £1 million, bailing out people who are actually affected by this. But it doesn't work. It's unfair. Not really saving any money. I mean, it's unpopular. It hurts disabled people. There's not enough one-bedroom homes. It's a complete failure, and the Tories suggest you turn on it straight away.
It does have exemptions for carers, for
What Liam was saying.
disabled people, etc.
Even for disabled children, they're entitled to their own room if they need it.
Yes. And for foster parents who don't have kids but are on the sort of are approved foster parents, they can have extra rooms. There are exemptions in place for situations where you may need extra rooms.
Okay, thank you very much. James, Mr. Higgins, would you like to close this topic, please?
In short, you never own a council house. You're renting it off a state, so the state decides what to do with that house. So you can't really complain about a bedroom tax when it's not your house to begin with.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much indeed for all of your comments. We're going to move on to our next topic now, which, from the laser selection process, will be led by, while she's working, Lily.
Oh my God, are you kidding me?
Well, your computer's on, so let's give it a go.
Okay, so my topic is specifically about HS2 and the Northern Powerhouse. So as you know, George Osborne has used quite a lot of rhetoric in saying that his government is going to help achieve the Northern Powerhouse so it works for people in the North. But the point I'm going to be making today is, quite frankly, it's a complete failure. There isn't a Northern Powerhouse, and let me explain why. First of all, the government, before the general election, said, don't vote for Labour because the SNP will scrap very important infrastructure investment for the North, which is the Midlands Pennine from London to Sheffield, for instance. But what you've seen, Gareth, is in the last couple of weeks, is the government has scrapped that, or they've delayed that. So the government is saying that they've got a Northern Powerhouse. They're going to build upon the Northern Powerhouse, but they're delaying investment towards the North. The government is giving more powers to certain councils in the North, i.e. Manchester, which I agree with. But the problem with that, Gareth, is that they're hurting councils in the North with spending cuts. And so the point I'm making is George Osborne and the government are completely hypocritical to say that they're building a Northern Powerhouse while they're cutting councils again, and they have done since 2010, whilst giving them some powers and then delaying infrastructure to the North. And then you've got the issue with HS2, which I think, isn't the priority right now, especially when you're delaying infrastructure to the North. The House of Lords Committee on this even said that the government needs to have a better argument and make a better case for HS2, especially when it's going to cost overall £50 billion. So the point I'm making here, Gareth, is that for me, there doesn't seem to be a Northern Powerhouse at all. There's infrastructure being delayed. We're carrying on with HS2, which I don't understand. What's the point, especially when we should be focusing on the North. They're giving more powers to councils in the North while they're cutting their budget. We do need to make it, an economy that works for everyone, but we can't be making disingenuous claims that we've got a Northern Powerhouse, so we simply don't, Gareth.
Thank you very much indeed. Right, would anyone like to join us? This is a Northern-dominated show. Lily is the most Southern person here, so who'd like to come in and tell us, is there a Northern Powerhouse? Is it here already? Is it underway? Or is it being delayed or not happening at all? What do you think at home? Let us know. Joe?
Well, I look particularly at HS2 rather than Powerhouse as something apparently as an economic wonder, and how it can be so, but there's a boost for the economy. It provides jobs over the 20-year period. At the end of it, there'll be 100,000 jobs predicted, and at the forefront of it, 22,000 construction jobs. That is a lot of jobs, and wow, what a job as Osborne has done. But also looking to the type of jobs, with an just increase on the apprentice numbers of 2 million, that increases the chances of apprenticeships and young people are getting their skills. But also, you look also that the negative to this is that London is the central economic powerhouse, and what does it do for the rest of the country? And bridging that north-south divide is difficult, and that is why the powerhouse then comes in. But there's no evidence of bridging that the wealthier areas, such as the TGV in France with Lyon and connecting it to Paris, but also with the Eurostar to Brussels and Paris also. But over a period of time, it's a value for money. It's 3.6 billion per year in 20 years when the project will all finish, and that's 10 months of the budget, equated with 50 billion over 20 years' time. It's a wonderful thing, especially with the Y-shaped inclusion in all of it, and £1.90 for every pound invested. Amazing amount of value there. Anyone else want to come in there?
Lovely, thank you very much. Liam, was that you?
Yeah, I'm just going to go to Lily's point first, which was that she doesn't think there's a Northern Powerhouse. So the point is that it is coming, and it's up to individual regions to have a directly elected mayor to get that. So, for example, in the northeast, we've just started talks to get one, and the Labour councils here were totally against that. And for that reason, we couldn't have any devolved powers or extra funding. And the point about funding being cut, I don't know what she's looking at, but from what I've read, if you have a directly elected mayor, there is more funding available for you. So if the Northern Powerhouse is to work, it relies on directly elected mayors, and as soon as that happens, we can have a proper Northern Powerhouse.
But is that going to pay for the spending cuts since 2010? Because if it isn't, then it's still not really worth it, is it? I mean, if you're saying that, okay, if you have elected mayors, we're going to give you more funding, then unless it actually takes away the spending cuts since 2010, you're still hurting councils in the north. I mean, it's better, but it's still not good enough. That's what I'm saying.
But the cuts have happened, and they had to happen, and that's fine. The councils made that work, and now increased funding is allowing them to spend the money more wisely than it was being spent beforehand. And the funding, because of directly elected mayors and more powers, it can then go into things like the NHS in regions instead of being directly controlled by NHS.
Thank you. A few of the tweets that we've had so far. There seems to be a sort of 50-50 split pro and anti HS2, and some people talking about HS3, which is the section north of Manchester. Where are we? Chris G. Devolving budgets to northern authorities in theory means that those with the best interests of the north at heart actually control those budgets. Salman Anwar is very much in favour of more devolution, but he does admit the delay in infrastructure upgrades is very unfortunate. Buxty says, wouldn't forcing lower standard train fares and improving normal lines be cheaper and better than HS2's fast line? John Dunsmuir, the Northern Powerhouse hasn't existed for decades. Anyone who's ever been around a northern town will see the dilapidated industry. Alex Ward says that we need to stop arguing and focus on the main issue. Do you prefer Kylie or Madonna? We may come back to that one, Alex. Milton Graham at Milton Graham G565. Infrastructure investment is crucial for economic growth. Where are we? Matthew Thomas, HS2 is a complete waste of money. The money would be better spent improving transport between northern cities, not connecting them down to London. And Salman Anwar, on the other hand, we do need something like HS2, but it would have been better to extend it further. And hopefully, he says HS3 will be a really good investment for the north. And for Eric Galinsky, we're talking about HS2, the Northern Powerhouse, and so on, and we will be talking about the EU and various other bits in a moment. If you want to join in with that, Jack Hughes at Jack Hughes 666, building infrastructure and better links around the country creates economic growth. More Northerners here. Mr. Arrowsmith.
Yeah.
Northern Powerhouse, does it exist? Should it exist? Is it coming along? What's happening?
No, it doesn't exist. Yes, it should exist. To be honest, going around Leeds and look at where all the money is being spent, it isn't necessarily been spent in all the sort of business and industrial sides. It's been spent around the university because that's what's bringing in money. All the buildings are going up near the uni. All the transport, almost any transport work is done with getting links to the uni. Now, I do welcome HS2. However, I prefer HS3 to be done first. Okay, it might not make a great deal of economical sense to London, but it's about improving the north and getting those links to Manchester, Leeds, Liverpool, Newcastle, etc. It brings in jobs. You can move from those cities quicker, and then we can move down to London because London's, isn't it? They're spending 15 billion on a small tube line at the moment. I think if we work from the top and come down rather than working from sort of London and coming back up. That's my main bone to pick with it. But on the whole, I am pro.
isn't the point of it though to attract that investment up from the south? So people who are thinking, I'm going to invest in the UK, London is the first port of call, and if they can actually say, you know what, you don't need to just invest in London in the southeast. We've got this fabulous fast train line that takes you through the Midlands and to the north, and that's surely the whole point of it, to actually attract investment from the southeast up to the north.
Well, you advertise Manchester, for example, because I think probably in reality Manchester probably is the best, port of call if you're going to advertise the north, because it's got, a big airport, it's got a few big railways, and it's got good, it's got good business. It has, for example, it's got two of the biggest football teams on the planet, there, and they football's a big
Liverpool
business.
And Everton.
Yeah. So I'd like to see it start from there rather than just being. It still comes across as London-centric is my problem with it. Like I said, it won't necessarily make the most economic sense. But maybe I'd like to see it. A gradual build-up rather than just saying London to Manchester, to Birmingham to Manchester. Because I think in reality they're just going to go down to London. I don't think they're going to go up to Birmingham or wherever.
Thank you, Mr. Higgins. I mean, again, you're also in the north.
Yeah, what other James was saying, why would a business invest in the north when it's just as easy to invest in the capital city of London when there's the trains that's going to bring the north to them? Why would you waste money trying to bring London to them when you can...
Because it's more expensive to run a business in London. That's why there's a different living wage in London.
There's more competition in London as well. It's
in London as well, though, isn't there?
It also strikes me also that how to fund the project is further down the line. London will bring in the infrastructure and also the tax revenue to attract the business to go there, and then the Northern Powerhouse afterwards. But also in regards to the extensions of what I think Sam and Anwar said of HS2 and HS3, that would certainly be something to consider in the future afterwards, anyway, for definite. But also, Gareth, what about Vauxhall Motors and Tranmere Rovers?
Well, yes, our local football teams to me, yes, but I do think Liverpool and Everton are slightly bigger. Just ever so slightly. A few more points that people have made online here. Salman Anwar, Hull is not a great northern town, but if we had HS3, it'd be great to extend it to cities like Manchester, Sheffield and Leeds. Joe Darample Hornby, tax breaks for companies based in the north, plus the attraction of a possible lower minimum wage, that would help the north. Jack Hughes says build another runway while you're at it. Josh at Josh Aaron R, he says he's seen a lot of growth in Leeds in the last few years. Trinity, Victoria Quarter, huge redevelopment plans.
It's only because of the money the university's bringing in. It's the biggest. Nothing brings in more money than Leeds University at the moment. That's why.
We've experienced a similar thing in Chester actually as well. So I know exactly what you mean. Chris G, the idea that devolving power to elected Labour councils in the north will create a powerhouse is certainly proof of Tory optimism. Trying to maintain my non-partisanship there. Leon French, you don't want a directly elected mayor, people. It hasn't made things better for Doncaster. Come on, I mean, you had the former leader of the opposition in Doncaster. What more could you possibly want? Where are we? Leeds Station's in the process of an upgrade, says Josh Aaron R. We've had many new buildings and shopping centres go up. Connor, no, can we stop pretending that the North matters, says Connor Chaplin.
Stop pretending the South matters.
Joe Darample Hornby, anyone for leaving the old collapsing Westminster buildings and relocating Parliament in the Midlands or the North? Can anyone think of a place where we could relocate Parliament, seeing as it's going?
Manchester.
Yes, but you need somewhere big enough to house them all, don't you?
York.
Buxy says high-speed rail is a great idea. Just look at Japan, but I'm not sure that heading up north is a great idea in the hope of forcing businesses there. There are a couple of people who are saying they're drunk and they're not watching, but they're pretty sure that it will be good anyway. That's the attitude that we expect many of our guests to take, actually. But there we are. Okay, any more comments on this matter? No. Before I ask Lily to close.
Vauxhall Motors is the way.
Thank you very well. As I drive a Vauxhall Astra, I'm obviously bound to agree with you there. I'm less interested in the football side of things. Lily, your turn. Would you like to close this one for us?
I would. I mean, the question you posed, Gareth, was does the Northern Powerhouse exist and should it? I mean, the point I'm trying to make is, yes, it should exist, but at the moment it doesn't. You know, we do actually need to have significant investment in the North. We shouldn't just be giving some powers to, you know, local councils and authorities which I support, and then cut their budget. It doesn't make any sense, okay? We need to be investing significant money, for example, in Yorkshire with their communications, tax rates for businesses so they can pay the real living wage, not the fake living wage. Because, you know, the North needs significant investment here. You know, this is why spending cuts isn't always the answer. So we can have growth in the North, where we can have higher wages in the North, where we can have a sustainable economy. So yes, the Northern House should exist. We need significant more devolution to the North, Gareth, but we actually need, you know, investment to actually help create more jobs. Because you said, Joe, that HS2 creates jobs. You know, it's a good thing, and I agree with you. You know, I want to create jobs too. I just don't think that spending £50 billion with HS2 right now while cutting budgets for the North makes sense. So we do need to invest, but we need to have the right kind of investment.
Thank you very much indeed, Lily. Thank you all for your comments. Well, thank most of you for your comments. There are one or two people who seem to be watching yet doing nothing but being rude. Well, yes. You know, I just think it's you're all very welcome to come on and take part and raise an issue that you would like to raise. That's the whole point of this. You, the viewers and the guests, take part and you direct how this show goes. And if you're not happy with how it's going, please do come on or don't watch. It's quite simple. We now are left quite simply with we're going to amalgamate these final two topics, which are from Liam and Joe. They're all about the European Union. This follows on, of course, from the news that's been running on for months now over Greece and whether there will be Brexit or whether they would be finally bailed out and whether Alexis Tsipras would get his way or not. And, of course, the story that's broken over the last 24 hours or so, which is what Liam would be focusing on, which is the EU referendum, that it might now happen next summer, a year from now. So, Joe, Liam, the topic is over to you. And as the Brexit thing has been going on for longer, I'll ask Joe to start, then Liam to follow, and then we'll open it up. Joe.
Well, the bailout has been sorted out for the assets, and of which Germany have played a major role. We look at Merkel and Schäuble, 64% for Schäuble and 62% for Merkel, as popular with their dealings in Germany and towards it. But the main issue here for me, it looks a little bit dodgy because you look at the board of directors of who is on in charge of the assets. It's Finance Minister Schäuble, who is on the KfW, and guess who? And he is the chair of the board of supervisory directors. So it looks like Germany would like to have a little bit more say than and the thing is, what it should happen for me, in my opinion, is that there should have been a non-Euro and non-EU sort of bank to come in and take charge of the assets, so there's minimal damage towards the EU, Eurozone countries, and also those in member states as well. Because we all know that convergence has never worked with the euro. It has failed. It is just a failure in general. And also, there's only so many burnouts that one country with such a failing economy can handle. I mean, it's just a dud economy, isn't it?
Thank you very much. Let's move on to carrying on from that. Of course, we have the EU referendum issue. Liam.
Yes. So basically, if you haven't seen the news in the past 24 hours, the Prime Minister is reportedly going to announce at a conference that the referendum is going to take place in June of next year, which is sort of a year earlier than most people expect it to be. And my question was, as renegotiation has now got less than a year to go, I'm wondering what your red line would be on the panel, and what if you think bringing it forward to June next year would help the yes side or the no side, because I spoke to some people in UKIP this morning, and their campaign's launching in 3 weeks to start to get out, and I have no idea when the stay-in campaign is launching, but I assume it'll be soon. So do you think it'll benefit either side in any huge way?
Thank you very much indeed. So, European Union, it's all been happening and it's all about to happen. What do you think? Tweet us. Let us know your views. Now, Mr. Higgins, there's an awful lot there. Take any aspect of it you want and tell us what you think needs to happen on the referendum, on Brexit, on Germany, anything.
I think something that would massively help for the Eurozone is that there needs to be something in place that ensures that the UK has no involvement in any Eurozone policies, like bailouts or anything, because they don't use our currency. It's not our fault. Why should we be paying for them for their mistakes?
No, we're not.
We've been told to pay
To
for
an extent.
the help on the latest bailout for Greece.
Well,
Yeah, I think James is right on that one, Joe, isn't there? Because there's
Yes.
a separate fund that we donated to, which was supposed to be for crises other than euro related, and the European Commission has now decided they will use that for the euro, even though it was set up so that we could donate for it because it wouldn't be for the euro. It's not on, really, is it?
No, exactly not. Because the bailout, they had an agreement. That was stupid slow. I disagree with that. With the EU side of things on that, because they're just basically dissing an agreement that we have with them. And we also look at the bailout fund. That's the exact bailout fund that David Cameron and George Osborne made sure we got out of doing, and now the EU are backtracking like a bunch of cowards, namely like Tim Farron. But simple as that.
He had to get in somewhere, didn't he?
Yeah.
Mr. Arrowsmith, the European Union. I mean, what do you think is going to be happening in the referendum? First of all, do you know how you would vote in the referendum if it were held tomorrow? How would you be voting?
Well, I'd vote in, being a Lib Dem. I think it's better for us economically to remain in the EU. Just as a quick argument, that's all. I think my problem with the in as well is that we seem to have absolutely no organisation at the moment. I don't know who's going to be leading it, what sort. Alan Johnson.
Okay.
Well, I haven't heard any sort of noise from whereas I've heard quite a bit of obviously the Eurosceptics have been loud, obviously due to with the last general election, especially with UKIP. I think also on the Greece and Germany thing. On the Greece and Germany thing, it's all right. I think the Germans and Greeks are in so deep they can't pull out anymore, so to speak. So they're going to keep going. They're going to keep putting money in, and I think for us to pull out and leave the EU would basically end the EU in its entirety because it wouldn't be able to function without us, and I think we'd struggle without it as well because we also rely a lot on the economies of other countries. So.
Thank you very much. I'll come to Lily in just a moment. A few of the comments that we've had so far, again, unsurprisingly on the European Union, split rather down the middle. Alexander Pittacus at the Woe. Alex, I would be very happy to have the referendum next year. Get the uncertainty over with. Harry _Chitty, the European Union is the biggest flogged horse in politics right now. Buxty, I hate the word Grexit. It's as annoying as putting gate on the end of any scandal. I am absolutely with you there. Well said. Grexit is horrible. It's although I think Brexit is even worse. I'm not talking about the idea. I just mean the portmanteau. It's dreadful. Salman Anwar.
Castigate is the worst.
Yes. Oh, yeah, that's pretty bad. Salman Anwar. Greece should never have been let into the euro in the first place. The euro is a failed project. Queen B at Militant Atlas. Out, out, out. Get Britain out. I'm not quite sure where you stand on the topic, Queen B, but please let us know. Jack Hughes. When we vote to stay in the EU, UKIP will be even more irrelevant than they're already becoming. Following on from that, Salman Anwar. Honestly, I'd forgot UKIP existed. He then says, same with the Greens. I probably would have forgotten the Lib Dems existed if it wasn't for Twitter. Councillor Charles Fifield, that's Charles Fifield. Monetary union without political union can't work. This provides an opportunity for renegotiation of membership terms of the euro versus the non-euro countries. Chris G, June next year for a referendum would mean no EU treaty change. The renegotiation will be a farce. It will help my side in the campaign. Better off out. Where are we? Milton Graham, a referendum will be harmful to the economy. Businesses don't like political uncertainty. Harry Chitty, UKIP has utterly toxified the out argument. You only have to look at Nigel Farage's ratings. Eric Galinsky at A. Galinsky, European Union, it's all been happening, quotes. I think Gareth Anderson is losing his touch. That's always very possible. I am, after all, wearing a hoodie. Joe Durample Hornby, bringing it forward will help. Yes, it's less time to discuss issues, and once again, voters will be panicked into voting for the safe option. John Dunsmuir, ditch the euro. It was a terrible idea, but the EU, a union for continental development and collaboration, is good. Just reform it. And Dylan Morris at Dylan HM, first battle, stay in the EU. Second battle, enter Schengen. Third battle, join the single currency. So there might be a few comments about that one there, Dylan. Joe Pollock, on the other hand, says we're better off out. Simple as. Leon French, I'm sure I'm going to be sick of the EU by the time of the referendum, just hearing about it, really. Caven Butcher at Caven Butcher, the EU is a laughably undemocratic institution. It should be refused. It would be refused membership if it attempted to join itself. Well, I like that point. That's rather good. Buxley will vote to stay in the EU in a referendum. Just look at Cameron's plans to ban encryption getting blocked by the EU courts. Chris G, Burnham and Kendall both have said there are no circumstances in which they'd vote to leave the EU. Labour thinking on this issue is stuck. The EU wouldn't be able to function without us, a quote there. Queen Bee says, oh, that is such a shame, says Queen Bee at Militant Atlas. And Ian Johnson at iJohnson_TNF. Now is the time for proper education within the EU without the hyperbole, how it is run, what powers it has, etc. And final comment on this one before I come back to you, panel. There have been lots of comments. Chris at Allriffno. Raf, if it was tomorrow, I'd vote out. I'm fed up with the Liberals, Labour and BBC telling us how fantastic it is. Vote out to upset them, and that's a bonus. Okay, who wants to come in on any of those comments? Any of you at all? No. It seems the panel have been dumbfounded by them, perhaps by so many. Joe, how if there were an election tomorrow, how would you a referendum tomorrow? How would you be voting?
I would probably say no, because the one thing about the EU is the destroyer of sovereignty. And sovereignty is a beautiful thing, isn't it, to be honest? Creating your own laws that are proper to the UK. I don't know. Get out of it.
Fair enough. Liam, if there were a referendum tomorrow, how would you vote and why?
I would vote to stay in. I think I'm sort of undecided-ish. I think I would vote to stay in, and just because I was watching the Nick Clegg Nigel Farage debate today to try and make up my mind, and the arguments that Farage put forward, the immigration argument, the trade deals argument, the bureaucracy argument, I don't see problems with, to be honest.
Thank you very much. Mr. Arrowsmith, how would you vote? Well, you've said already that you'd vote yes tomorrow, sorry, wouldn't you? Is there anything that could persuade you to vote against, to vote to leave the European Union? What might push you?
If the Eurozone completely and utterly collapsed and almost most of the countries were thrown into default, then yeah, it would seriously, I'd seriously think about staying in, because it may be dead by then though. So.
Mr. Higgins, how about you? How would you vote if there were a referendum tomorrow?
I'd vote to stay in because I've seen quite significant EU investment in and around Sheffield, so it's good for Sheffield. So that's all that matters to me at the moment.
Would there be anything that could persuade you to vote to leave?
Not really at the moment, because I don't really know an awful lot about the ins and outs of the debate. So I'd need to have a lot of information to vote out of.
Also, I appreciated the pun there. I don't know the ins and outs of it. That's kind of a good one. Speaking of which, if anyone does want to have a word with Dylan H. Morris at Dylan HM for his "Let's all join the Euro" tweet, he is really quite disappointed that nobody has so far. So please do, if you want to engage in that debate, tweet at Dylan HM and tell him why you think he may or may not be wrong about UK joining the euro. Buxty, isn't the problem that we have with the EU is that we want in, but we won't go fully in terms, for example, of a single currency and free movement. Lily is apologising sincerely. She's been having technical issues. Welcome to the world of Spectrum. We know we have these. So, Lily, thank you for being on, and we know that it'll all work again shortly, and we will have you back. I'd be Josh Dixon at Josh Dixon Tweets. I'd be frothing over the EU if this was me. You all need to get hyped. Josh Dixon, of course, if I remember correctly, being a federal member, a member of the Liberal Democrat Federal Executive. I don't know why I found it quite so hard to say those words. Perhaps it's because I forgot they existed. I don't know. Matthew Thomas, I'd love to integrate some European culture. Their politics, though, they can keep to themselves and not drag us into it. Salman Anwar, I would vote to stay in, but arguments that Farage puts across aren't great reasons to leave the EU. There are actually much better arguments. Daryl Devine at the Dazro, I'd vote out because Twink King Owen Jones told me so. Obviously, I have no idea what that means. Chris G, the UK is already out of the main decisions within the EU, yet we pay a hefty membership fee and we must bow to EU flag, president and anthem. And Darren Grimes is tweeting here talking about Liam Bones, speaking about how Nick Clegg's arguments to stay in the EU are much more founded than those from Farage. And he highlights Lib Dem defection. So I think he might be tweeting you. He might be tweeting you a link to join the Liberal Democrats there. Final comments, any of you on the EU, on Brexit, on the German situation, on the referendum before we close the show?
Yeah, I just want to ask the panel my original question of what would their red line be on renegotiation?
Okay. By which, just to clarify, Liam, do you mean the one thing that would make it successful, the one thing they would absolutely have to get in a renegotiation to stay in?
The one thing they would, yeah. Sorry.
Okay, who'd like to go for that first? What's the one thing you would really want to change about the European?
Can I just ask what could possibly be up for renegotiation in the EU? I know it's a really broad question.
Well, just say theoretically everything.
Okay. Well, to be honest, it doesn't really bother me because I don't think we'll get anything in the renegotiations anyhow. I think the EU is too stubborn, as we've found out with Greece. So, I'm not really fussed about changing out right now.
Yeah, but like theoretically, if you could change anything.
No, I'm not entirely sure what we can really change around. I mean, I wouldn't change the border control thing and I don't like the idea of sort of saying, oh, the Brits have. Okay, yes, we do have to have a certain deal, obviously, because we're not, in the Eurozone. But I don't like the idea of saying, oh, well, they get free border, but the Brits aren't. They're a special case. They get to control their own borders to a certain extent by, whatever means they want. So I'm not really fussed about renegotiation. I just want to stay in.
Okay. Mr. Higgins, what would be the one thing you would really like to see changed? That could be a red line.
No involvement in Eurozone, please.
Fair enough. That was nice and clear. Joe, how about you?
Dismantle the euro. Dismantle it altogether because it just does not work at all. And also regarding, we have to keep out of the Schengen. I want everybody to remove themselves from the Schengen area because we see the flood of immigrants coming to Italy. That also affects other member states as well. So they can't control their own borders on that front. It doesn't specifically affect us because we just don't have any borders. We have a sea. That as well.
Thank you very much indeed. Now, what would your red line be, Liam? What would be the thing that would persuade you, if you didn't get it, to leave?
I think my main concern with it at the moment is that we can't negotiate trade deals with anyone that Europe doesn't have trade deals with. So I think that would sort of be there, but it's not going to stop me from voting yes, if I can vote yes.
Thank you very much. Okay, I asked our audience at home to give you a final teaser question or challenge. There are several that I think would be either unsafe or improper. However, the one I'm going to put to you, I'm going to nick from the Pollcast, which is well worth a listen, particularly this week's episode, for reasons that you would find out if you were to listen. And it is this. Lord Sewell the gentleman, the Labour peer who's in the Sun today for being involved with prostitutes and cocaine, would he be a bay or a nay?
What do you mean by bay or nay?
Lord Sewell, is he bay or nay?
That's a bit too distinctive.
Ooh, I'm gonna go.
What if I'm somewhere in the middle?
Well, if you're somewhere in the middle, I think you probably have had photos taken by the Sun, wouldn't you?
Probably.
I'll go with Bay because he's gone and resigned. He's done it quick and he hasn't faffed about. So Bay, I like that. Just straight to the point.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Mr. Higgins, any conclusion on him yet? Bay or nay? What do you reckon?
Bay.
Bay?
He's doing something that everyone does at one point in their life. What's wrong with that?
You heard it here first. Every one of you at some point in your life will hire prostitutes and snort cocaine off their chest. Mr. Pattinson, Lord Sewell, bay or nay?
I don't really have an opinion, to be honest, but I'll say nay for not having an opinion whatsoever.
Okay, thank you. And Liam, bay or nay?
Nay.
Nay. Thank you. And there we are. We have now resolved the world. Thank you all very much indeed for joining us. Next week, we're looking obviously for a panel, but in the next couple of weeks, we're going to be having a Labour leadership election special before the ballot papers go out, or certainly before they have to be ready, before the ballot papers go out. So if you are a member of the Labour Party or you're an affiliate and you'd like to take part in that, we'd love to have you on. Obviously, we want people who support each of the 4 leadership contenders, and perhaps 1 or 2 people who really are floating voters who don't know yet which Labour leadership contender to support. So if you're a Labour member or activist and you'd like to get involved with that, do let us know. If you'd like to be on next week's show or a future one, again, do let us know. And thankfully, I've got a few volunteers who'd like to host the show in future as well, which is always very much welcome. So we've got Lily and Harry and Adam, and of course Leon and I hope David again. So if anyone else is interested in that, again, get in touch. Thank you very much indeed. It only remains for me to thank our guests for tonight. Thank you very much to James Higgins. It's been lovely to have you on.
It's been nice to be on.
Heading up from South Yorkshire to another Yorkshire. It's I don't know which one Leeds is in. West Yorkshire?
West.
West.
There we are. Too many Yorkshires.
It's just West.
Far too many Yorkshires. Thank you very much, James.
You can never have enough You can never have enough Yorkshire.
And that perhaps is for a special show on another occasion. Moving over to North Yorkshire, I think, is thank you very much to Joe Pattinson for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Moving even further north to Liam Bones, thank you very much for joining us tonight.
Thank you for having me.
The desperate north.
Thank you, Lily, who is the most southern person on this show this evening. We're very grateful for your contributions as ever, and thank you very much to you at home for all of your comments, and to all bar 2 of you for your comments and your tweets. We're very, very grateful. If you'd like to join us and come on down here next time, get in touch. Other than that, enjoy the rest of your Sunday night. We enjoyed it. We hope you did too. Good night. Goodbye.